Most people think procrastination is just about distractions, social media, phone notifications, or YouTube. And yes, they definitely do make things worse, but they're not the cause of your procrastination. These distractions are just a symptom. You don't procrastinate because of your phone. The real reason you put things off is because of what's happening inside your brain, not outside. And once you understand that, you can fix it, even on the days you've got no energy, no motivation, and no momentum. I'm Salim, a doctor living in London, and over my past 3 university degrees, I've had to figure out how to work through procrastination when everything in me wanted to avoid doing work. And figuring this out was the only way that made it possible for me to work full-time, build this channel, and make time for a life outside of work. So I'll break down 4 science-backed reasons your brain procrastinates and the strategies that actually helped me break the habit for good, so that it can help you too. And stick around until the end, because not only does each point tackle a different layer of procrastination to help you overcome it permanently, but you'll also help boost my watch time. So first, I have a question. What kind of tasks do you procrastinate on the most? It's probably not the hardest or the longest. It's the ones where you don't even know where to begin. And that's not a coincidence. It's just how your brain works. Because when something feels vague or uncertain, your brain tends to see it as a threat. There's a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, and it's involved in decision making and behavior, and also lights up when something seems uncertain or ambiguous. So when the path isn't obvious or the outcome looks messy, your brain flags it as risky and basically tells you to delay it and do it later. So procrastination isn't always about laziness or distractions. It's your brain trying to protect you from messing up something it doesn't fully understand. But what this means is that there is a workaround, and that's giving your brain certainty. I remember when I first started YouTube, all I had was a vague goal to upload videos consistently. But because it felt so broad, I kept putting it off because I wasn't sure what I was getting into. But it got easier once I broke it down into scripting, recording, editing, titles, thumbnails. Each part became clear and it made much more sense. It's the same with studying or working. Don't just say you'll start the essay, say that you'll write a rough paragraph for the introduction. Because once your brain sees a clear start and finish line, it stops seeing the task as a threat. And that's when you start moving forwards. So take whatever you've been avoiding and shrink it down into something concrete, because that clarity is going to remove your habit to procrastinate. So now your brain isn't running from the task itself because you've made it doable, but there's still another reason it might not feel urgent, causing you to procrastinate, and it's because it doesn't actually feel important. You might know that you should revise or should apply for that job, but deep down, your brain doesn't care. And when something feels pointless or disconnected from what matters to you, your brain will keep quietly ignoring it. This is more than laziness, because this is emotional disconnection. And it makes sense. We're far more likely to procrastinate when a task doesn't feel personally meaningful, when it just feels like something we're supposed to do. So whatever tasks you're avoiding right now, you need to find emotional relevance. I remember during med school, there were topics I'd always procrastinate on, certain specialties that I didn't really care about. They felt like random facts I'd never use, so I'd delay them for as long as possible. But back then, I realized that one day I'll be working as a doctor and be responsible for someone's care. And even now with YouTube, when I remember that these videos might actually help someone in a real way, those realizations helped me stop putting things off. Building this emotional relevance mattered because even if I wasn't using every bit of knowledge or time to study or work on my channel, the habit of taking it more seriously started to matter. So rather than just studying for revision, it became studying to be useful, or rather than just making videos for consistency, it became making videos to have a positive impact. So if you're stuck procrastinating, ask yourself, why does this actually matter to me? And don't just stop at the surface level answer. Keep asking until the reason feels personal. For example, instead of I need to revise, maybe it's I want to revise so I feel calm on exam day, or so I don't get imposter syndrome when I qualify. This helps because it's not enough to just know what you're doing. You need to feel and understand why you're doing it. So now you've got emotional clarity, but the next problem is that you might still feel mentally blocked. You might feel like your brain's foggy and that you can't focus because whenever you sit down to work, you suddenly remember 10 other things you forgot to do. This isn't just by chance, and it happens to most people. It's a result of your brain trying to juggle too many unfinished thoughts at once. There's an effect called the Zeigarnik effect, and it shows us that your brain holds onto unfinished tasks like open browser tabs. Now, if it was just one task, that might be good because it serves as a reminder to get it done. But the problem is we have a lot of these in the background, giving us constant reminders of everything we've not yet done, making it difficult to focus on the task at hand. And the more of these open loops you have, the more mentally drained you feel, even before you get on with doing anything. But a simple thing I've been doing for years now is keeping a capture list. This is literally just a list I keep on Notion of anything that pops into my head while I'm working. It could be scheduling a coaching call, an idea for a video script, or replying to friends. As soon as I write it down, it genuinely feels like my brain no longer needs to hold on to that anymore, freeing up that mental energy to focus on the task in front of me. Then, at least once a week, I come back to that list, organize it, and start ticking things off. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, externalize your thoughts. Your brain is meant to process information rather than hold onto every little detail. You'll be surprised by how much clearer and more focused you feel when you do this, so that you can get on with what you should be doing. And now, before the next point, if you're interested in one-to-one coaching with me, visit my website linked in the description. I've helped over 40 clients build sustainable systems to improve their productivity, studying, and stress management. The goal isn't quick fixes. I'm here to help you build habits and systems so solid that you won't need coaching ever again. So if you want coaching or want to learn more, check out the link in the description. So now that you've cleared your mind and created momentum, there's still one thing left that can sabotage your progress. And that's when the task in front of you just doesn't feel worth it. You know it will help your future self and you know it's the right thing to do, but your brain couldn't care less, because scrolling for 5 minutes right now feels better than finishing a degree 6 months from now. This isn't just bad discipline, it's called delayed discounting. Your brain actually devalues rewards the further away they are in time. So the reason you're procrastinating might not be because the task is too hard, but because the reward feels too far to care about. That's why we often wait to feel motivated, because we're hoping for some kind of emotional push to make the future feel closer. But motivation doesn't come before action, it follows. There's something called behavioral activation, and it helps people get moving not by fixing their emotions, but by changing their behavior first. So kind of the opposite of what most people would think of doing. And what does this mean for you? This means that instead of aiming to finish a whole task, just create a tiny win, even something as small as opening the document or writing a single sentence. And then pair this with a short-term reward, like ticking off a streak counter, giving yourself a short break, or having something nice to drink while you're working. This is to bridge the gap between the present and the future, because once you do this and once you act, your brain shifts to believing that the long-term goal is now worth it. And that shift is what stops procrastination from taking over, especially for the bigger ambitions you have for yourself. So by building momentum, rewarding small actions, and making the future feel closer, you take away your brain's biggest excuses for procrastination. But even with all of this, there's still one thing that can quietly block you, and that's your mental health. Because sometimes you feel exhausted or overwhelmed for no clear reason. And I've had those days too, where I couldn't focus, my energy disappeared, and it felt like even the smallest task was too much. But over the past few years, I've found healthy ways to keep going, even when my mental health was struggling. And in this video here, I'll go through how I've learned to bounce back and work during these low stages so that you can do the same. So click the video to learn more.